Never would I have ever imagined that the reunion of Gambit and Kayla Silverfox would have taken place on the planet of Mars, or in this movie's case, Barsoom. Before there was George Lucas's Star Wars saga and James Cameron's Avatar, the chief architect in the creation of the science fiction space opera was novelist Edgar Rice Burroughs. Also known for creating the extremely famous character Tarzan, John Carter was his compadre, in which that inspired the 11-volume Barsoom series, and this movie in particular is an adaptation of the first novel in that series, A Princess of Mars. The movie stars Friday Night Lights' Taylor Kitsch in the title character of John Carter, who is a former Civil War captain who's on the hunt to find this gold chamber, which is hidden in a cave in the desert, and he ends up being transported to Mars after a big incident that takes place, and he ends up being thrust into, surprise surprise, another civil war that's happening on the planet, which is being fought between these red humanoid Martian characters and these green Martians called Tharks, in which they're warring for control over the resources, politics, and so forth on the planet of Barsoom, or as John Carter knows it as, Mars. Now that's just the main setup of this movie, because if I had to explain the plot as a whole for this movie, it would take up over half the video. So if you want a more in-depth analysis of what this movie is about, go to IMDb or something, because I don't want to go too far in depth on what this is, because there's just so much in this film. Now to make a quick disclaimer, I did not read the novels. Hell, I haven't even heard of the Barsoom series in particular, and I think that's what's really going to affect the overall consensus of this movie, especially my opinion in particular, because it will be very similar to others. Because I feel that this is a movie for the most diehard fans of the Barsoom series, particularly the first novel. Everybody else, though, including me, is most likely going to perceive it as a very overbloated sensory overdose, because they try to explain every last nook and cranny about the book and throw it into the movie, where it really just turns into a very overwhelming experience as a whole. Taylor Kitsch is okay in the lead role as John Carter, however, his line delivery is what really prevents me from saying that he turned in a good performance, because he just talks in a very flat and gravelly voice throughout the film, and it really just reminds me of Christian Bale's Batman voice throughout the movie. Lynn, though, I think particularly stands out playing Princess Deja Thoris, in which she really brings a lot of femme fatale aspects to the film, because the character isn't afraid to take a stand. She can fight for her own right. She isn't just the typical damsel in distress that we've seen in many cliched action movies before, and I was really impressed with her performance at times, and she really shines in the action scenes at times too. In terms of the supporting cast, I think Willem Dafoe does a really good job as Tars Tarkas, a member of the Tharks, which are these green 4 to 6 armed Martians that also inhabit the planet. And also, I really dug Bryan Cranston's small but very amusing role as Colonel Powell, who comes into conflict with John Carter early on in the film. And the one thing that creeped me out about his character, though, was the blonde wig that he had to wear for the role, in which it made him look like if Kurt Cobain was still alive today and in his 50s. Pixar alum Andrew Stanton does a decent job directing the movie. He really nails down some amazing set pieces at times, in which they are just gorgeous to look at. The cinematography at times features some very luscious shots, especially that really capture a Western vibe in the beginning of the film in particular. However, when it comes to adapting the book is what it really falls into the overbloated sensory overdose of what this movie is. It tries to quickly introduce you to the mythology of the world that this movie takes place in, and it just rushes through all this exposition to a point where if you get lost at any point during that, you really have to try your hardest in order to play along with the rest of the movie as a whole. Furthermore, there are severe pacing issues, especially towards the last act in the movie, because while there's action, it really moves along very fast, but all the scenes in between, and when it leads up to the third act, it just feels so overlong. The movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes, but all the slow pacing and the scenes in between the action, especially the very overlong third act, it makes it feel like a 3-hour experience instead. Overall, if you haven't read the book John Carter like I am, it's going to be hard to really perceive this movie because of how much it tries to throw at you, and in the end, it just really amounted up to to a slightly amusing at times, yet very overwhelming and over-bloated sensory overdose in the end. And that's why I'm going to give John Carter an unfortunate 2 out of 5 stars. So I hope you enjoyed my review of John Carter. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments below. I'll be seeing 1,000 Words on Friday, and I may review either Silent House or Friends with Kids this weekend as well. So in the meantime, I'm talking CaliCritic Reviews, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.